All right, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and this video is about my personal frustrations with watching mixed martial arts due to what I perceive to be their incompetence at often not knowing how and when to finish one another off in situations where I certainly know that I would have been able to finish the opponent off immediately. So a lot of times I get frustrated watching and I'm like, hey, noob, why didn't you throw an elbow strike right here? It was wide open. Why didn't you throw that knee strike right there? Oh, you still haven't thrown the knee strike and it was still wide open. You know, why didn't you go for the figure four ankle lock or the inside heel hook or the outside heel hook right there? I would have done that right there and that would have ended the fight. Why don't you even know what a reverse neck breaker or a standing back breaker is right here? You should have won the fight 30 seconds ago had you known that. Um, that sort of thing. And I about 6 months ago, I was living in Baton Rouge in an apartment, and my roommate was a retired EOD Marine Corps EO from the EOD era in Special Forces, and he and I were watching various MMA promotions on the cable television because on the package we had at the time you can dial up anything you want and watch it, whether it's one championship or UFC or anything. It could even be a Russian, which one of them that we watched was based in Russia. But anyway, with a couple exceptions, we mocked the MMA fighters. We were both sitting there mocking almost every other moment what the MMA fighters were doing. It's like, why didn't you do this, or this right here? Do you even know that exists? And and this retired EOD officer, or actually gunnery sergeant, not a non-commissioned officer, rather than a commissioned officer. But anyway, this retired EOD Marine, it's like, yeah, I know. Why didn't he do that? Or why didn't he just kick the guy right here? Or he would do the same thing as me. And it's like, you know, I'm sitting here with an absolute expert who has classified top secret clearance and can prove it, by the way. And we both had the same ideas about what was right or wrong 9 times out of 10 on the mixed martial arts fights, why the fighter was winning or losing or should have won 30 seconds ago. And they totally miss. I was watching one of the UFC's feeder organizations online yesterday, and the fighter who was a former UFC fighter who had been demoted back to one of the feeder organizations and no longer in the UFC promotion, and he was the favorite, and he ended up losing at the last second in the third round because about 30 to 45 seconds into round number three, he actually had a vastly superior position where he could have applied a reverse neck breaker had he even known what a reverse neck breaker was. And he clearly did not know what a reverse neck breaker was. And he passed up the opportunity to apply a reverse neck breaker. And instead of doing that, he tried to get the opponent's back to get into rear naked choke position. And when he went for the rear naked choke, he gave up the reverse neck breaker position that he didn't even know existed. And he went for a rear naked choke position. And the opponent got out of it and reversed it and beat the living hell out of him and won the fight at the last possible second because he did not know white to yellow belt Ishinru karate techniques and was supposedly a professional fighter. What I consider white to yellow belt knowledge is what got him beat in the fight. And I even told the people on the channel yesterday on YouTube, I said, this is some epic white belt versus white belt nonsense here. I said, neither of them actually knows what the hell they're doing. I said, no wonder they didn't make it in the big times. So, and watching the actual UFC or one is the same way, with the exception of maybe Angela Lee. I don't really respect any of the female grapplers in the one promotion except Angela Lee. And the UFC isn't much different. There's like, and like, please, if you call yourself a striker, at least be able to throw a 1,000-pound punch like I can with my right cross. Still, I can't with my left because my left hand is medically disabled now. But at least be able to throw a 1,000-pound punch with your right cross if you call yourself a striker. and at least be able to throw a 2,500 to 2,800 pound kick with your right push kick or thrust kick if you call yourself a striker. If you can't do that, you're not a striker, you're a nobody. Do you understand me? All right. So there's actually a basic formula. It's based on your weight that for a man, your thrust kick or front push kick should be roughly 2,000 pounds plus 4 times your own body weight, is what it should be at a bare minimum. And I got told that by the EOD gunnery sergeant, that that's the formula they used to use to calculate what your kicking force should be in the special forces in the military. So if you don't have a kick at the bare minimum strength, you're not a professional fighter. Don't call yourself a striker if you don't have 1,000 pound punch and at least 2,500 pound kick. And don't call yourself a grappler if you don't know basic Greco-Roman wrestling and Japanese jiu-jitsu. You're wasting your time with Gracie jiu-jitsu if you don't know Japanese jiu-jitsu and Greco-Roman wrestling. You don't know anything. Because most real submissions are going to start with some sort of wrist lock in a real no rules fight or close to no rules fight. They don't just come out of the air. If you're going for a some sort of headlock or rear naked choke or blood, whether it's a blood choke or an air choke, and you don't start from some kind of wrist lock or sidearm control, you're making it hard on yourself. If you get a wrist lock or sidearm control, you have all sorts of options. You can reverse neck breaker, you can standing back breaker, neither of which I have ever seen in MMA, by the way. And we know what that is from Isshinryu Karate, don't we? And uh, I've never seen the figure four ankle lock used, although I have seen the figure four leg lock used one time in one. I've never seen it used in UFC at all. I've seen like one outside heel hook in UFC in my lifetime and no inside heel hooks, if I remember correctly, and no figure four ankle lock and no reverse figure four ankle lock in UFC. They don't know how to do it. It's there, it's available, especially in the cases where you catch the other opponent's roundhouse kick or straight kick out of the air. It's certainly there to apply to them. All you do is inside sweep and push the other person to the ground. And then once you catch their leg, and then you go ahead and figure four their ankle. And it's over. You win. It's that simple. And they don't know it because if they did know it, they would do it. The other possibility is that they do know it, but the fights are fixed and they're just passing up opportunities to beat one another. Is the only other possibility I can think of, is that the fights are actually fake and fixed and that they're intentionally passing up opportunities to defeat one another. Are they that bad or are they that fraudulent? Explain that to me. It's got to be one of the two. Either they are bad fighters that don't know what the hell they're doing, or they are frauds and are fixing the fights. You can't tell me that he doesn't know how to finish somebody off and he's got a black belt.